What is going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, USC opens up the season this last Saturday, the other day, with in a big way, ended up beating the Rice Owls from Texas, 66-14. Obviously, this is the result that true USC fans like myself wanted. It's just been tough because we're not used to beating up on these teams that you should beat up early on in the season or even during the season. But hopefully it's just a sign of things to come with new head coach Lincoln Riley. But yeah, I mean, even the past couple years with Clay Helton, he'd schedule these easier teams earlier in the year, and then USC would barely win by 3 points, 7 points, 10 points, and it's like you don't really show your dominance as being a top, Division I school. It's something with a lot of history and prestige, and then you get crapped on in the media. But it was good overall game for the quarterback. Caleb Williams ended up going 19 for 22, which is really good. That percentage was like the best for a first-time QB at USC since like Matt Barkley did it against Colorado, something like that a few years back. And he also threw for 249 yards. He ended up running for 68 yards as well and threw 2 touchdowns. So yeah, the guy was just amazing and really efficient, and only played till like halfway through the third quarter, and then pretty much all the second stringers and everybody like that got in. So who knows what his numbers would have been like, but definitely had to get him out of the game, so you don't want any type of freak injury or anything like that. So yes, overall very happy about his debut, which is really awesome. And then even the USC defense stepped up. It looked kind of a little bit shaky because that first drive for Rice, they let him go down and score. It took them a while. They were bending quite a bit, but they did break and allow the 7 points. But after that, it took them a while to score and get that 14 final score. But yeah, it was weird. I think it was like right before halftime or something like that. They ended up intercepting a pass by Kalen Bullock. Pretty sure you've seen it with the highlights, and he returned it like 90 plus yards for that score. And then like right after halftime in the third quarter, they had 2 back-to-back interceptions that were also both returned for touchdowns. I think that's a record at USC. It hasn't been done in quite a bit, and I think if they would have done 4 returnings, that was another NCAA record as well by FIU. But I believe they did have another interception at some point throughout the game. I could be wrong, but I mean, to have 3 of your interceptions returned for touchdowns, I mean, that's pretty crazy. They literally outscored the Rice Owls themselves 21-14. It was really awesome. The kicker made all his extra points and his 1 field goal, so you got to be happy about that. But overall, it was a great game to watch, even though it was not only hot there, but hot here as well. But overall, got through it, and now on to the next opponent, going up a little bit north to NorCal and Stanford to play the Stanford Cardinal, which is a better team, but they are a team that USC should beat handily, especially if the offense is clicking like this. They should win by a few scores pretty easily, especially if the defense steps up even half of what they did this last game. So definitely looking forward to that. It should be a very fun and entertaining game. Then right before this, I want to say it was maybe Friday, the College Football Board, who puts up all this, top 4, the Final 4 all together tournament, they pretty much agreed, all the managers did, to be able to expand the teams that are allowed into the Final 4, so up to 12 teams total. So it'll be a 12-team tournament at the end of the year, and they're looking to do that pretty soon, like around the year 2024 is maybe the earliest they can do it, but they're definitely not going to wait till past the 2026 season, they said. So it's definitely coming soon. I know when they did their contract a while back, they had pushed this idea for like almost to like 2030 or something like that, but seeing how there's a lot of parity in college football, and yeah, in the end it might end up being the same top 4 teams as it was before the Final 4, but it could be a lot more interesting for college football fans, and you could still save guys if they have to play the extra game, because you just schedule 1 less game overall, out of conference game during the year, and you should be fine. And it said something too, like I guess the top 6 conference winners, so no matter what your record, as long as you win your conference, you're in, and then the next 6 teams after that, of the highest record in the rankings, will get into the tournament. And I think like the top four or six. I think maybe the top four teams overall with that record who won the conferences will get bye weeks. So overall, it's a pretty interesting layout if it were to come to fruition soon. But overall, definitely very excited about this because even if USC might have a hiccup or two, as Lincoln Riley usually does in his career, they could probably still get in the playoff and come in as like an underdog and try to beat up on one of the top teams. So like an upset in the March Madness tournament. So that'll be pretty interesting to see in the near future. Then yes, ex-USC quarterback Sam Darnold was put on the IR, so he will be out at least the first 4 weeks of the season. Surprised it wasn't more because he was carted off the field, but looked like a lower leg, ankle-ish type of area injury. But hopefully he does have a chance to come back, but we'll see what Baker Mayfield does as well because he is going to be their starting quarterback for Carolina. And then speaking of the Chargers ex-player Larry Roundtree, apparently after he cleared waivers the other day, they did re-sign him to the practice squad. So as I mentioned, there were a couple spots left there, and of course they re-signed one of their more recent draft picks. So it wasn't that surprising, but it's pretty cool that they did to at least let him have a home until maybe another team wants to snag him and use him as a starter. And then a 2023 USC commit running back from Texas, Quentin Joyner. He is a 4-star, but after this performance, he might end up getting pushed up to a 5-star because I believe it was only 13 carries he had in that game, and he had a total of 202 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. So almost about every third or fourth attempt of rushing, he ran all the way for a touchdown, which is pretty crazy. He probably wasn't playing the best competition that game because it was only 13 tries pretty much, and I don't know what he did catching the ball wise, but I mean, just to do that, it's pretty awesome. And even the 2023 linebacker Tackett Curtis is really doing some amazing stuff out there in Louisiana. He's going all over the field, making great tackling defensive plays, and then he also is a very good athlete because he returned punts for his school, and he had like 3 touchdowns as well as a defensive player coming to USC. So it's just amazing the type of talent USC will be getting soon on their roster within the next year, and definitely looking forward to those two guys joining our crew. Then when it comes to the Lakers, yes, they've been a little bit of news ever since that Donovan Mitchell trade happened to Cleveland. Apparently they have talked to about 5 different teams in the NBA about Russell Westbrook ever since that deal had happened. So you never know if he could get traded for the next day or so, or it could be weeks and months from now. You never know. But even I did see another article saying that the Lakers were comfortable if they did end up going into the regular season with Westbrook on the roster, which I don't like the word comfortable because then you're kind of just, succumbing to what it is you have and not really looking to make yourself or your situation better. So they should be doing all that they can to either get him off the roster to be able to, for him to help his career out, because I don't think they're going to use him as great as he could get an opportunity somewhere else on a crappy team and playing all the time. So I think they should really look to do that, because then there was another article that came out that the Lakers were really interested in a couple of the veterans that are on the Utah Jazz's team, the roster that are still there after the Mitchell trade. So guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson, but they also want to be able to save cap space for 2023 offseason in that summer, which they have about 30-something million ever since they traded away Taylor Horton-Tucker because he's not on the books anymore. But only one of those guys that they could be interested in, veteran-wise, is only on a contract for this year. The other guys, it's either another year after this or another 2 years. So I decided to make a quick trade on that fanspo.com about who I think they should get, and especially because a lot of people are saying, especially NBA executives, that the 2027 and 2029 Lakers first-round picks are like one of the more coveted first-round picks out there, because for some reason they believe in the span of 2022, so I guess in 5 to 7 years, the Lakers are going to be a bad franchise again, and those picks are going to be very high in the draft. So I don't believe that, because I think the Lakers will be able to get a talented guy at some point on the team after Davis and James decide to leave, or they decide to get rid of him. But yeah, so throwing those picks in with this trade as well. So in this scenario, the Lakers would get Bojan Bogdanovic from the Utah Jazz, and they would also get Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers, who they've been trying to get. I figured, do I do Hield or Turner in this situation? Excuse me, but I like the ability to space the floor with two shooters, especially two roaming guys who can move off of screens and stuff compared to having another center, because the Lakers have a couple of good enough guys there, Thomas Bryant, Damian Jones, stuff like that. So I think they're going to be okay for that. But when it comes to the Indiana Pacers, in this scenario, I have them taking Russell Westbrook, and they can either keep him or just work out a deal, and it's half the salary of what he's getting, and he's off the team pretty much. But they would also be getting the higher or the better of those first-round picks that come sooner in 2027. So that's where I'm sending them, because they are taking on Russell Westbrook. And then the Utah Jazz are getting Daniel Theis from the Indiana Pacers, who the Pacers were trying to get the Lakers to take his contract, but his contract's like for another 2 or 3 years, something like that, around $8 million. And the Lakers don't really need him as a player coming off the bench. There just won't be enough time and room for him. So they could just either send him to the Utah Jazz, who will take him and either buy him out or just trade him later in the year. But you also entice them by giving them the 2029 first-round pick, which obviously they're trying to stockpile on, because I think even the next handful of years they have like 15 or 17 first-round picks, something crazy like that. So they're stockpiling first-round picks as well. So in this situation, obviously it was a success according to fanspo.com. Obviously, it could be different. It could switch out certain players as well, but I'm just trying to make it more beneficial for the Lakers and everybody else in this situation. So I think it works out overall. So Lakers, Gina Ron Palinka, owner Jeannie Buss, if you're listening and watching, take notes. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.